way. It looks like Calcano is at 4 cards and Shrout is at 6.
Yeah, that believes Calcano on 4, Shrout on 6. We're going to go ahead and start. Calcano leads off on a Blood Crypt.
Wait, does he even have 3 cards still in his hand, or is he down to 2?
I think he's down to, looks like he's down to 3 cards.
Okay.
So they're going to have to be good ones.
It is a mold of 3.
Yeah, it's a mold of 3.
So Calcano's, he's gonna go hard on him. He's
all right, he has the turn 2 Thoughtseize, and now he gets to know what he's up against. At least it'll let him know what he's playing against. We see Electromancer, Ascension, 2 Rituals, a Manamorphose, and some lands.
Yeah, it's interesting. You probably have to take the Ascension here unless you have an answer. Just in terms of, you know, it is a way that Shrout can actually convert this this temporary advantage into something game-winning, and he does.
This is a pretty decent hand from Shrout. There are a lot of draws that turn this into a kill. Right now, though, he doesn't have any of them. You know, he's left with a lot of mana at the moment.
Now, the Faithless Looting he just drew is going to give him access to a lot more cards. And he does want to try to press the advantage. He doesn't want to just hang out because Calcano missed his second land drop. I mean, mulling to 3 on the play is a rough one anyway, but it's very easy for Calcano to just have a Tarmogoyf for a Dark Confidant here. And when he draws 1 more land, suddenly Shrout is under some real pressure.
Right. So we're going to see it's a fetch here, probably just going for that Faithless Looting off the bat. Obviously, Shrout looking for an Ascension or a Past in Flames.
Yeah, it's interesting. My understanding was that white bordered basic land were banned in this format, but I guess that's actually not the case.
All right, he's going to go ahead and start with Manamorphose, and he flips that into a card. He gets a Pyretic Ritual, so now, and he's just going to go ahead and play Electromancer on this turn.
Yeah, because, I mean, if Calcano has the Bolt, he has the Bolt, and he does. But there's also the chance that Calcano had Abrupt Decay or Maelstrom Pulse or anything else. You want to get the Electromancer down there where there's a chance that it'll actually do something.
The loss isn't even that big. What Electromancer would do would make a lot of mana, but really, mana's the one thing that Shrout has plenty of. We see Faithless Looting now. He has a fair amount of lands, just lands and rituals hanging out his hand.
I mean, at this point, Shrout is just going to keep digging, looking for Past in Flames or Pyromancer's Ascension. He wants some kind of a card that's going to let him leverage the huge amount of mana that he has access to into a game-winning play.
Yeah, so Calcano's hand has an Inquisition of Kozilek and a Thrun. So IOK decent, Thrun quite a ways off, and Shrout did hit his Ascension there off the probe, and Calcano's going to need to find an answer to that one pretty quickly.
So this is a rough time to Inquisition too.
Yeah, it lets Andrew, well,
because the thing is, the first Desperate Ritual you hit doesn't actually power up the Ascension at all.
Right.
But
So
he doesn't know. He doesn't know what the last card is.
it looks like Past in Flames there.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be game on the next turn, right?
Yeah, well, it's close. It's close. It's not for certain. There's not a ton. There's not that card drawer in Shrout's hand yet. So like he could get, like, in theory he could brick when he goes on. Like he could run out of card draw and not find more. It's unlikely though. When he goes for this should probably work. Shrout down to 14.
Now, the thing is, though, Shrout doesn't have to go for anything. He can just sit and hang out. I mean, he knows that Calcano doesn't have any spells.
Right. Time is on Shrout's side. The one thing he'd have to worry about would be Abrupt Decay, because he wouldn't want to lose the Ascension. But to be honest, he's got enough time where he probably can find another Ascension. I don't think he would want to go for anything less than like a pretty sure bet combo.
The thing is, though, he can just Past in Flames again anyway. So
yes.
If he just uses this as a mere draw 5 or something, he's going to be in real good shape. And you never know, he might just end up winning.
And that's what he's going to do. So he casts Desperate Ritual, casts Past in Flames, all the cards get flashback, casts the Desperate Ritual out of the graveyard, and now the Pyromancer Ascension is activated. So he's going to have 3 red mana here.
And with the 2 rituals in his graveyard, he's going to have access to a basically boundless supply of red mana. It's going to have, that's 12 right there. The Manamorphose will put him at 14 and plenty of blue mana. He'll be able to draw 6 cards, no, I guess 8 cards from the 2 lootings and the 2 sleight of hands and the 2 Gritaxian probes.
Yeah.
I would be really surprised if he does not win this turn on the spot.
Yeah,
you know?
Seems unlikely that he would brick here. He has 4 blue, the choke here is blue mana right now. So he has 4 blue, down to 2 blue, down to 3 blue to cast that sleight of hand. Nick said, yeah, it is unlikely that this will not work.
I mean, at this point, he literally just needs a grape shot, but I think even one more Manamorphose would lock it up.
Yep. Jataxian Probe, drawing him 2 cards.
The other thing to keep in mind is that with all these cards he's drawing, he's going to have access to a whole bunch more rituals and cantrips, and he eventually can flash back the Past in Flames again.
Yep, so casts Desperate Ritual. So that will move him to 11 red and 3 blue in his mana pool right now. And
there's the Manamorphose.
There's Manamorphose, so he's making a separate graveyard there so that because the sideways cards have flashback, the straight up ones do not. Technically, Past in Flames should be the other way.
Of course, he is actually just indicating that Past in Flames is kind of the divider, and all the cards past it were the ones before it. Either way, this one is a done deal. What are we going to see out of Calcano in the sideboard?
Well, Jund is always pretty good post-board. It has a lot of hateful cards for different matchups, and you touched a little bit on some of the cards that you can use. First, let's talk about the one of Grafdigger's Cage. This turn would certainly not be possible were there a Grafdigger's Cage in play. That'll stop Shrout from flashing back any of his spells. Other than that, though, yeah, you've seen Golgari Charm that can kill an enchantment, Rakdos Charm that can exile a graveyard. Another Thoughtseize is always a fine thing to have.
And there we see Andrew Shrout showing the Grape Shot, meaning that they can advance to game 2. Grape Shot counting every spell played this turn. Shrout easily playing at least 18 spells in order to finish the job.
Yeah, even if he hadn't played 18 spells, he could simply Grape Shot, flash back Past in Flames, and Grape Shot again, which a lot of times you'll see that kind of line. So he only even needs to get up to 9 instead of 18 if he has enough red.
Yeah, or even just 8 from the Past in Flames and the Grape Shot, adding 2 more stacks.
So 8 and 10.
Yeah. So Shrout looking to sideboard. It's tricky because he didn't see a ton of Calcano's deck. He knows that it's Jund, but is there anything he really wants besides Blood Moon?
Yeah, I was going to say my guess is if you suspect your opponent's on Jund, you can try to Blood Moon them. Attacking Jund's mana has always been a good thing to do against Jund. It's possible you want Empty the Warrens. That's a really touchy one, though. So typically against heavy discard decks, Storm likes to board and Empty the Warrens. But we already talked about the fact that Jund plays Maelstrom Pulse. He plays Golgari Charm out of the board.
And Anger of the Gods. It's not even clear he's going to cut them all because it's possible that he finds a different card to be worse.
Right. I'd say, like, Terminate may be a worse card. So if Anders playtested the matchup, I think he'll either know whether or not he thinks Empty can work, how often your opponent has an answer to it. But typically, I think you'd board an Empty against this style of deck.
Yeah. And besides, at the end of the day, adding 2 Blood Moons and 2 Empty the Warrens doesn't take up a lot of space in your deck. And the ability, it's very easy to just trim some of these Faithless Lootings. Or possibly, do you think it's crazy to consider cutting Electromancer?
No, I was going to say Electromancer, when I've played Storm in the past, Electromancer is one of the cards that I do like cutting in this matchup, just because I don't trust Jund to not kill the Electromancer every time. There are a lot of cards that Calcano is going to keep in that are pretty narrow, like Lightning Bolt and Abrupt Decay. You look at the things that Calcano wants to cut. You start with things like Terminate, possibly Anger of the Gods, maybe Thrun. There's a lot of cards that are definitely Thrun. There's a lot of cards that are pretty bad. It's unlikely that Calcano will be cutting the Bolts and Abrupt Decays, just because...
Well, Abrupt Decay, the fact that it also does double duty and hits the Ascension. But Bolt is a little more questionable.
Right. In a perfect world, he'd cut the Bolts, but he probably just doesn't have enough things to board in. So it's like that Electromancer still isn't going to live. So it's better to, you don't want to play it because you don't really want any of your cards to get removed, to eat a removal spell.
So my guess is he's going to bring in a Grafdigger's Cage, a Golgari Charm, a Rakdos Charm, a Thoughtseize, maybe a Sword of Feast and Famine. Yeah, maybe an Engineer Explosives.
I don't think he has enough time for the sword in the matchup. Certainly would give him a way to close out the game, but in general, I don't think that's something he's looking for too hard.
But on the way out, he will likely cut the 2 Terminates. Anger of the Gods probably will end up going and just relying on Maelstrom Pulse, Golgari Charm, possibly Engineering Explosives to sweep the Empty the Warrens tokens. Maelstrom Pulse also hitting tokens.
Yeah, I don't
Thrun,
like
I think Thrun's got to go too. It's just too slow.
Yeah, I don't think he ever has there's never going to be a window to cast that. Courser of Crewfix is pushing on it. I think you still keep it in because of how well it functions in the deck, but that card is almost too slow for the matchup as well.
All right. Each player keeping their hand.
All right, so
Calcano in a rare keep of 7.
yeah, we're going to see his deck actually in action this time. It's going to start on a Thoughtseize off of Blackleaf Cliffs. And it is
So we do see 2 Pyromancer's Ascensions.
yeah.
This is interesting. In spots like this, if you have an answer to an Ascension, you can obviously take one and then, Abrupt Decay or Maelstrom Pulse the other, or Golgari Charm the other. But if you don't have an answer to the other Ascension, generally, you might as well just take the Gitaxian Probe instead of one of the 2 Ascensions, because if they ever get 1 Ascension online, you might as well let them have 2.
Probably get 2 online. Once they get 1 with 2 counters, that's pretty much it.
Well, it doesn't even matter though. The point
Yeah.
is the second Ascension is superfluous, so you might as well take the Probe, because the Probe would give him access to more spells to try to find ways to trigger the Ascension.
Right. So he can kind of, like you said, one of the best parts about Thoughtseize is allows the Gen player to sculpt his plan. He can take the Ascension, and that's like being more the control deck. He can take the Probe and try to somewhat race the Storm deck. This is not a particularly fast hand that Shrout has kept.
No. This is more of a slow and steady type of hand, but this is also the type of hand with a good mix of mana. And Shrout's very well aware he's got tons and tons of live draws.
Yeah, so
Calcano is representing strength by taking the Ascension.
Yes.
By taking the Ascension, it suggests that he has an answer to the other one, but now we're going to find out the truth.
the truth was, if his hand is a little weak, it has 4 lands and a Tarmogoyf.
That is the problem with bluffing against people with Gitaxian Probe.
Yeah, they get to find out you're doing it. To be fair, this hand is not particularly good at aggroing either, so maybe he felt like just taking Ascension was what he was supposed to do. But I mean, he can take Ascension and hope to draw into Abrupt Decay. That's not unreasonable.
Yeah, it's definitely, it would appear to be the gamble that he is taking.
Yes. And the draw for Shrout off that Probe was a Faithless Looting.
I think he just wants his Tarmogoyf to be 1 bigger. He wants
bigger.
to bring the Tarmogoyf beats. Can't say I blame the man.
Yeah, if you take Probe, it's only sorcery. All right, now before Mountain. Of note, if Shrout boarded in the Blood Moons right now, Calcano did not have a basic in his hand, so...
And we saw from Shrout searching through his deck, he definitely does have Blood Moons in his deck. He does not have them in his hand, but he has them in his deck.
Yeah, well, with the Pyretic Ritual that he has in his hand, he has the potential to Blood Moon as early as next turn if he finds it. He will Faithlessly loot.
And there it is.
So, yeah, he can make a turn 2 Blood Moon here.
This game is going to be over before it started.
Well, Calcano has a fetch land, and if he's wise and go and if he plays the fetch, he's gonna make that turn 2 Goyf, right? So we'll see if he plays around the Blood Moon.
That is a 3/4 Goyf that becomes a 4/5 Goyf if the ritual hits. That is a plan. It is probably the last spell he will ever cast.
So can he do a full 17 with a Tarmogoyf?
Just a second, let me check my Magic 8 Ball.
All right.
Signs point to unlikely.
He's
He
not going to
discards the
discard the
Blood
Blood Moon. All right. No interest in it.
Doesn't even care.
Wow.
Wait, does he have 2 Blood Moons? It looked like he might have a second Blood Moon.
Well, it means Calcano will probably play around Blood Moon now, for sure. If your opponent, very few people only play 1 Blood Moon. So Calcano down to 17. We'll see which basic he chooses to get. Yeah, he's going to go ahead and preserve his green mana.
Oh yeah, he needs to be able to cast Tarmogoyf this turn. I mean, that's the only thing he has going on.
Yeah, so he has to get the forest. I think if Shrout has Ritual into Blood Moon next turn, he still makes the play.
Yep. This is the only thing that Calcano can do. So it's not a lost cause yet. His back is against the wall, but
It's funny, 3, missing instant. It's enchantment, sorcery.
so it looks like Shrout does
Land.
not have another Blood Moon.
Yeah, he's just going to go... Well, he knew that Calcano didn't have an answer to this Ascension. So with these rituals, Shrout just can, go for the plan A of Ascension, activate Ascension. You see here a Manamorphose and 2 Pyretic Rituals.
Man,
Well, this isn't bad. Shrout can Ritual his way up, get a counter on the Ascension, flash back the Faithless Looting, and presumably activate Ascension next turn.
wait.
Depends on what he draws into. He can Ritual twice, flash back his Faithless Looting.
Yeah, but unless he draws another Faithless Looting, it won't trigger.
Right.
But yeah, because when you flashback,
Yes.
obviously flashback is not going to trigger the Ascension.
He'd have to find another Pyretic Ritual or a Manamorphose or a Gitaxian Probe.
Yep, or a Faithless Looting even. He's got a lot of live draws.
don't know what he drew for the turn, right?
This is definitely one matchup where the Desperate Rituals really shine. I mean, and Shrout, unfortunately, stuck with Faithless Looting.
Yeah. The Desperate Ravings, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Desperate Ravings really shine, and Shrout paying the price from having the Faithless Looting, trying to be really turbo, but when you get Thoughtseize, you very quickly run out of cards in your hand.
All right, so he's going to go for it this turn. That is 2 Pyretic Rituals, brings him up to 4 red mana, counter on Pyromancer Ascension.
And he did draw Manamorphose.
So Manamorphose, that's a huge draw. That's the second counter on Ascension. So go ahead and draw a card off that. So look, he'll probably have red, red, blue, blue in his mana pool at the moment.
And now he can flash, if nothing else, he can flash back Faithless Looting and get two active, or two, I guess, triggers so that he can look at 4 new cards.
Yeah, he'll be likely left with a pretty good 4. If he can even leave up a blue, and if he finds any of his blue cantrips, he'll be able to start drawing cards off that.
Definitely, because at the moment he doesn't have anything going for him. But after this resolves, he'll have his choice of 2 cards, and hopefully one of them will be a blue card drawer.
Yeah. Of note, he hasn't made a land drop yet this turn. So first Faithless Looting, he has 2 lands in hand. Looks to be at least 1 more land. He's going to discard Steam Vents Misty, now resolving his copy of Faithless Looting. And that's a Past in Flames.
Now the tricky thing about Past in Flames here is that he does not have the mana for it. So he's going to be setting up for sometime in the next 2 turns. So what he needs is more card draw, because he just needs to get raw cards to work with, because he needs to be able to put some land in play.
So if you're thinking that, you could discard the Past, and you discard the Past in Flames then, just play it out of the graveyard, hang on to other cards for now.
I mean, it costs you 1 more mana out of the graveyard, but in this spot, he definitely wants Gataxian Probe, and the land in his hand is worth 2 mana. I mean, it's worth a mana for sure.
Yeah, and once he finds a ritual, that extra mana for Past in Flames shouldn't be too much of a problem, as now his rituals go from 2 to 6.
So he still has a blue mana in his pool, and it looks like he found a sleight of hand. So he's going to be able to keep going.
Yeah, he also found a Grape Shot. I don't know how many spells he's played this turn.
It should be enough to kill the Tarmogoyf if he wants to just stop and give himself some breathing room.
I would think if you kill the Tarmogoyf here, I really like where he's left himself. It basically forces Calcano to top deck an Abrupt Decay.
And it looks like that's what we're going to see.
Yep. So Pain off the Shivan Reef. He left that blue up, so now it's blue and red. Grape Shot. We're going to get a count on this Grape Shot in a second here.
Now, what's interesting is he's not completely out of the water. That Raging Ravine is going to do 4 and then 5, which, I mean, obviously if Shrout doesn't take another point of damage, he's got 2, 3, 4, he's 4 turns to be knocked to 1. So he's got 4 turns of breathing room if he doesn't take another point of damage.
It also means if he uses the Shivan Reef for colored mana again, though, it's going to cost him a turn.
Definitely.
So Grape Shot takes care of the Tarmogoyf, probably with some overkill. We'll get an update on life totals in a second for you. And Calcano draws explosives on 2. That's huge.
That was huge. Suddenly, the game is looking pretty good for Calcano. I mean, obviously, Shrout has a lot of live draws. If he gets, about 3 more mana, if he gets like 2 rituals.
If he can flash back that Past in Flames.
Yeah. If he flashes back the Past in Flames with at least 2 mana in his pool.
Yeah. Now, interesting, he found a Ritual and a Lightning Bolt. I think he reached for the Ritual and then thought about it. Seeing that Raging Ravine, I don't know which one he kept. I think it would be the Lightning Bolt.
He did keep the Lightning Bolt.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? Wait a minute. Maybe
this is good.
Maybe I need to establish control.
Yeah. He did take a damage off Shivan Reef this turn, so he's down to 9. That did cost him a turn.
Yeah, but now that he has no fear of Raging Ravine.
Doesn't matter. That count is no longer relevant. So land and a Desperate Ritual, Shrout would like both of them. And that seems fine. All he needs is mana right now. He just wants to flash back Past in Flames with a lot of mana up.
I think he just wants to make sure that if Calcano draws a Thoughtseize or an Inquisition, he's got a plan. He's not just locking himself out of the game.
He needs to get up to 7 mana in a turn to cast the whole graveyard.
Or 6 mana and not have played a land yet, so that he has the hope of one of his 2 probes hitting a land.
Keeps them both on top. They are both mana sources. That's land 6, right? So that's 4 mana in play. 5 and 6 are on top of the deck.
And he's got a lot of time now that he has that Lightning Bolt.
Absolutely. And he is, for the most part, I'd say Thoughtseize proof at the moment too, which is good considering the suite of disruption that Calcano brings in.
So what's Calcano looking for right now? I mean, obviously a Grafdigger's Cage or a Rakdos Charm would be huge.
A Grafdigger's Cage or Rakdos Charm would be huge. I would say Scavenging Ooze would probably be his best draw.
Sure, anything to attack the graveyard, right?
Yeah, and I like that because it's also a clock. I think, Calcano's clock's pretty weak at the moment, and Shrout has punched himself down to 9. There's, between Gitaxian Probes and Shivan Reefs, that it's not that, he doesn't have, Calcano doesn't need to swing that many times to make it lethal.
Oh, he decides to hit with the Raging Ravine instead of Thoughtseize, and it will cost him his Ravine.
Yep.
Sometimes you gamble, and sometimes you lose.
He was wondering if he'd kept it. You could see it on his face. He had to call Shrout at least. Grove of the Burn Willows made there. And now it's Dark Confidant.
So this is going to put some pressure on Shrout. Shrout does not need very much in order to win. He needs 2 more mana.
Yeah, and that draw was a Desperate Ritual this turn.
He's
one.
halfway there.
There's worry every turn he waits that Confidant is drawing an extra card for Calcano.
He could try to go for it now, because if he hits one of the two, if one of his 2 probes hits a land, he's probably going to win right now. However,
exactly.
It's such a gamble to go for it right now. There's so many things could go wrong.
Well, yeah, especially because that's it. That's the last Past in Flames that. Well, no, he plays 3 Past in Flames, right?
Yeah, but he's not even going to need to get that big. If he uses the Bolt and the Grape Shot in the graveyard, I
think he goes for it this turn, right? He has 2 more Past in Flames. The potential to win this turn is so good for you that
you're going to kill the Dark Confidant even if you fail.
Right. I bet he starts. We will see if Shrout agrees.
The only problem, his life total will end up at about 4.
Yeah, he's going to have to hit himself a lot of times. So we see Desperate Ritual. This is the first spell of the turn. Up to 3 red mana. He's going to go ahead and tap 2 more to make it for 5. That flashes back Past in Flames for the second spell of the turn. And we are going to see if Shrout can get this. Everything in the yard has flashback. He's going to start, as you said, with the Gitaxian Probes because he needs to find another land. And it was a Thoughtseize. And there's the land. Shrout
this should
goes
be a
down
done
to
deal.
5. It's unlikely this one whiffs.
Yeah, I think it's just academic, actually.
There's no chance at all in it.
Yeah, because all he has to do is cast all the spells in his graveyard, a Lightning Bolt and a Grape Shot, and he'll have enough to do 13.
Yeah, he's down, knows that there's a Thoughtseize, there's nothing that can get him. Goes down to 3, he's willing to shock for Steam Vents there.
Yeah, I mean, it's real easy.
It's just there.
Yeah. Like, at this point, you can just count the spells. He's already played Gitaxian Probe and Past in Flames and a Ritual. He'll play another Gitaxian Probe, a Manamorphose, 3 more Rituals, a Lightning Bolt. It looks like possibly 4 Rituals, a Lightning Bolt, a Blood Moon, and a Grape Shot.
So he's casting cards out of the yard. It's spell 4, 5, 6. Yeah, this is.
Yeah. So because Lightning
6.
Bolt's going to put it at 10, put Calcano at 10, which means the Shrout just needs to assemble 9 spells before the Grape Shot.
7. Now he's changing some mana to blue, and drawing cards while he's at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's academic anyway at this point.
Yep.
It looks like we're going to see Manamorphose, another Manamorphose.
Go ahead for a sleight of hand. That's number 8. Just playing the cheapest spells possible. You see, there's an Empty the Warrens and a Ritual there. I think he's just going to take the Ritual. Doesn't really matter what he takes. Spell number 9 is Manamorphose. And yes, now all he has to do is cast the Lightning Bolt and then the Grape Shot, and that should be good.
Yeah, I can't imagine why anybody would want there to be less of this deck.
All right, so 2-0. Andrew Shrout defeats Christian Calcano. He'll move to 5-0. Calcano down to 4-1.
That was definitely Storm doing what Storm does. Obviously, a little bit of a rocky start from Calcano, but he knows that he took a game.